Hello, colleagues. It's really a great honor to participate in your seminar. And today I select the topic that from one side is quite narrow because we will consider mostly case study of chemical applications, but also covers different scenarios how to apply AI for science in the more automated way. And I'll start from like a background to connect my research interested with this topic. Really, I am not from chemistry or some specific field of the natural sciences. My research interest is about machine learning, but at the edge with the automation. So it's AutoML field when we try to automate the design of machine learning pipelines. It's automation of design of the system based on large language model, different tasks of numerical optimization. And of course, it's not some pure theoretical tasks, it's deeply connected with applied fields. And for me, the most interesting field here is AI for science. So how to help the scientists from other scientific fields to improve the quality and simplify to do some research in different fields. I am participating in AI for Science workshop, for example, at ICML conference, also do different open source projects in this field. And really, it was noted, ITMO University has like the largest academic open source community in Russia. And we provide some tools that can be used by practitioners in different fields. As an example, a design of physical structures, some tasks of optimization of graph structures that can be solved in different tasks from engineering to chemistry. Tools for some non-classical applications that developed by my colleagues, like search of causal relationships that very important for interpretation of results of experiments. Equation discovery and solutional differential equations, that quite classical fields. There are a lot of existing results here, but when we apply the frontier technologies of artificial intelligence, of deep learning, we can solve such tasks faster, and we not just publish some papers about it, but also provide ready-to-use instruments that can be used by specialists in the field. Some of the tools that will be noted today are more specialized. For example, 𝐻𝐸𝐶ode is tools specifically for drug discovery. Some mostly focus on industrial process planning, so it's for business companies that can use some tools. And there are a lot of different tools and products that are fully free and open source. And today, there is no sense to describe all of them, but I will focus on our collaboration with Center for AI and Chemistry, also from AI University, because it's a very interesting example how different AI techniques can be merged with existing chemical knowledge, existing applications of machine learning in chemistry to make it more efficient and automated. So we already published several papers in this field. For example, on the NeRIP conference that mostly focused on machine learning, neural networks, not about applications, but we submitted such papers that propose a new hybrid approach to solve well-known tasks of de novo designs of in specific field of core crystals. Later I'll go in details to them. And also we have like a cycle of papers that I'll try to describe into detail why it's necessary to solve such domain-specific problem with deep involvement of us, like specialists in artificial intelligence. So, starts from 𝐻𝐸𝐶ode, tasks of core crystals design. Core crystals plays very important role in pharmacological industry because that allow to improve the properties of the tablets, so-called tabletability. So it's not about how to develop new drug from cancer, from AIDS, etc. It's how to make the tablet with defined properties, so it can be used in commercial purposes, not only in lab research. And while this task is quite known, there is when we start previous year, there is still wasn't some open tool or platform that can improve the generation of initial candidates of molecule for such co-crystals. So when we look at the problem in more detail into the background that was already implemented by our colleagues from Center of AI and Chemistry, we found here 3 different mechanical properties that should be improved. And it's interesting because it's task of multi-objective optimization, so it's hard to satisfy just with generative models that generate some single solution. It should be like Pareto frontier, subset of suboptimal solutions that provide different compromises between these properties. And also target object is molecular. So it's a graph-based structure that should be generated or modified, improved during optimization. And it's interesting because we already have some background in graph optimizations for engineering, generative design, even for AutoML, because structure of machine learning pipelines also a graph ML, and we try to directly apply it to such multi-objective tasks of molecular generation. And of course, our first guess just take some generative adversarial model or some more advanced transformer like variational autoencoder, etc. But when we try, they work good, work fast, generate a lot of molecules. But the main problem, first, the results are not diverse enough, because it's simple to generate one satisfying molecule, but idea of such in silico methods not to generate one ideal result. It's impossible to, but to generate some samples that can be good initial guess for laboratory scientists. So we go deeply here and, for example, try to modify the architecture of variational autoencoder model in conditional mode. So when we can add the condition to the decoder, we can use machine learning models that predicts such properties of molecules, like that improves tabletability, and make the generation more targeted. So as you see, we part molecule in the gradient boosting model and have some predictions, and the transformer try to maximize the improvement of these properties. However, it's still worth like shaking the box, trying to have some meaningful output. It was very long because it's model quite hard to train, and even quite slow for the inference. Such direct generative approach doesn't work well here. While a lot of state-of-the-art tools of drug design based on such architectures, we still should spend too much time to trying to obtain something with high novelty and satisfying with all these properties. And we try to think just a bit out of the box here and build some hybrid pipeline that merge two worlds existing in generative design that exists separately, applies in different fields, but that's rarely merge together. So we start with our initial pool of models, like state-of-the-art, from GAN model to the 𝐶 that was pre-trained on open data, and go to this pipeline. First stage, we implement the model for prediction of mechanical properties. Is classical ensemble learning. We try different models here, try to tune their hyperparameters, apply state-of-the-art AutoML from our developments like Fedor to the AutoGluon, maybe someone know it, and other very effective tools, but it's interesting that due to not so large sample of data, gradient boosting was the most effective here. And then when we have predict property, we can both directly optimize the result, the structure of the molecule. So we can use evolutionary optimization here. And also we can add it as condition to the generative model. But interesting case is how to join here. And we use it in following way. It's known that genetic or evolutionary optimizations is very sensitive to the quality of initial population. So when you have not so large population and cannot find result from scratch, it can be very useful to provide meaningful initial assumption to evolutionary optimization. And we use the result of ensemble of generative models to provide from one side very diverse initial population, and from second side it should be population that consists of molecules with desired properties. And it's interesting that different generative models generate like a different subsample from all possible applicable molecules. So then evolution can select, mutate, and etc. to maximize the qualities from the found set. And then we applied also predictive model based on graph neural network that can analyze can the generated molecule be used in practice. So will co-crystallization with existing drugs that we should produce be successful or not. So of course the precision of such a model not absolute. It can provide some errors, but since our approach is populational, the most of molecules will be still valuable for the final user. And we finally, in the end of our pipeline, we obtained like a ranked list of co-crystals that can be tested in the laboratory, but the chemical synthesis that is very expensive will be provided not for example 1,000 molecules like in existing methods when we just use GAN, but we select top 10, top 100 to reduce the cost and make more work on the computer. To implement all this, we take the existing chemical database 𝐲𝐶𝐶 that provides a lot of different description of possible candidates to the drugs. Also, we use dataset for conformers for the specific tasks, and performed feature engineering here to build effective predictive model. For generative model, the same. We use these data sets to train our models, use trained machine learning model to generate the conditions. And you see the criteria are not very common for machine learning here. So the quality of results, not like precision or F1, ROC-AUC, it's mostly about percent of validity of results, percent of novelty, because it's very simple to generate a lot of valid results, but not novel. The percent of duplicates, and it's from chemical point of view, interesting point, because molecules with different smiles, different descriptions can be like polymorphic, similar from the properties point of view. So we also should train such a model that minimize the number of such functional duplicates. Percent of target conformers that's really suitable, diversity, etc. And you see that some models can produce very valid and novel molecules, but they are not effective as conformers. And then we run optimization. You see the convergence graph below. There is a reduce of each properties provided here, and as you see, the initial assumptions, the first point of fitness function plot, are quite different from the end point, so that evolution can greatly improve the average result of optimization here. So it's make much sense to apply hybrid approach here, not just only deep learning and only evolutionary optimization. And then we start to think how to prove that it really works. The metrics and percents, it's all great, but how to compare that results are really correct. We researched some chemical papers and found example of theophylline case. It's some target drug for us, and our task to find conformers for it. And we validated which conformers were found manually in different papers and tried to run our tool. And it was seen that in the final sample of candidates, there are was presented all such solutions that were generated by humans. So it's like phenomena-based validation. We confirm that it is at least human compatible. To confirm that it's that find conformers more effective than humans, the problem that very expensive chemical synthesis is required here. So we still not cover this stage, but it was good result. Good result. We were accepted to NeRIP's main track, and looks like chemical case is ended. But it's maybe ended from a chemical part, but from our part, it's still not look automated. We spent it like several months to design such pipeline, to analyze which stage to combine, how to predict all these metrics. So a lot of quite routine work from the point of view of me as machine learning scientist, but it's impossible to automate it in any way using existing AutoML tools. So next step, we want to avoid manual design of pipeline for each new task. There are a lot of tasks of chemistry and other applications, and it's very frustrating to solve, to involve experts and qualified data scientists to each new case. Also, chemical knowledge and knowledge of software development also required for each new pipeline, and we want to avoid it. And of course, configuration of such generative and predictive model is very routine work, but a lot of combination should be checked, a lot of knowledge should be taken into account, and it's like hard. And here large language models can help us, because it's just great generalizers, great meta learners. And first we start to research what already exists here. Maybe you know about chat LLM model that was claimed to great in answering of chemical questions, and a lot of such other tools, even model like from OpenAI, from DeepSeek, can great in answering to very sophisticated chemical questions. But when we tried to solve such tasks with it, the answer was like very trivial. So there is no novelty in the obtained candidate results for the generation tasks. So we look into the field of multi-agent approaches based of large language models. You see, in this scheme, we try to imitate the thinking of domain scientists. So we start from some text description of the tasks, and then the ensemble of different large language models try to process it, decompose the main task to subtasks, like we did in previous pipeline, orchestrate existing tools, for example, RDKit, machine learning models, generative models that should be trained. And for each description of task on the domain language, we try to build such pipeline to solving in automated way. So LLM here do not try to solve all tasks together, they try to adapt existing instruments and models to solve it. And there are also not some very novel idea. We analyze different tools like Molformer. You see, it's also agent of different tools based on retrieval, augmentation, generation, or 𝐶𝐝𝐞 that has, you see in the right part, a lot of tools, access to Python, to internet, different specialized agents, but their efficiency for drug design tasks is still quite low to our surprise. And also �𝐸𝐴 agent, same idea, solve chemical tasks in multi-agent way, a lot of tools, models special to specific to chemistry, but it's still not very effective from our experiments because it didn't try to really decompose the task and build some pipeline. It's some very straightforward approach. And then we built our own multi-agent architecture that is based on orchestration and iterative interaction of different large language model. First, we start from two main agents that we should improve it to by added the agents that work with existing chemical knowledge, and also to compare all these tools, because maybe our approach also not very effective, we was required to create new benchmark, because existing chemical benchmarks like that used for chem LLM, it's like common questions, mostly like from school book for the subject. And for such tasks, we generated expert queries by our chemical team, extended by the synthetic generators using also language models, verified, and have more than 200 queries for different drug design scenarios for different diseases. And our approach here allow us to achieve very high novelty of results that all other tools were failed. And also you see in the board there are different properties highlighted, and for different tasks our metrics was the highest here against existing specialized and non-specialized tools, just because we implement different architecture of multi-agent setup that allowed to decompose tasks in more meaningful way. And there is even a small demo. I'll try to start it. Yeah, that some interface that can be used by practitioners to solve different tasks in the very useful chat-based way. But under the hood of the system, not single LLM, not, for example, ChatGPT that started this direction, but this multi-agent setup, and you see, you can ask questions and one agent will answer from the chemical knowledge, but you also can, for example, predict the properties of the nanoparticles or ask the different scenario of synthesis. And in each case, the specialized model that under the hood will be selected and started. You see that is real text how to synthesize some nanoparticle. Prediction tasks also, the model itself do not try to predict it and hallucinate in this result, but to run special tool, and you see it predicts the shape of the nanoparticles, can even visualize it also using specific pre-trained model. Other requirements, other forms of the nanoparticles. So there are a lot of scenarios implemented here. Drug design, here we specify which properties we should maximize, and we obtain the SMILES of required molecular. But under the hood, we have specialized workflow for this specific tasks. You see visualization tools, etc., etc. So based on existing tools created by community. All tools used are open source. We created our system that manage it using AutoML setup. So it's like AutoML, but auto chemistry. We named it Chem co-scientists, like Copilot, but for chemistry. And I said about open source, but all this platforms, chat interface, it's very complicated. So if you do your research using such multi-agent system, how you can publish it not only as paper, but also prepare to open source. Open source it. There are a lot of routine work, how to make your results reproducible, how to beautify your repository to make it accessible and understandable by other people, other scientific teams. And here we propose the tool named Open Source Advisors, OSA, that allow use same multi-agent idea, but to improve source code of your scientific pipeline for experiments. It's not specific to chemical applications. It can be used for different scientific code that use the language model of different complexity under the hood, from GPT-4 and DeepSeek models for complex tasks of code summarization, generation of documentation, to the simple tasks for the task selection, decomposition. So it can be run both using external API or some local servers, for example, using Llama 𝐻𝐶𝐓𝐵 model. And how it works, you just pass to a link with repository with your raw code, so the code that you write during experiments, and then OSA generates the description, generates the constrings, analyze your implementation, and do some advices what to modify to make it more accessible to the humans. So we do not aim here to generate scientific code from scratch. It's very hard. It maybe not even quite successful, but it can improve the accessibility of results for another teams. That all is great. As an example, we have collaboration with research team in Brazil. It's Dr. Leonardo Galeat that makes some researches in machine learning, in natural science, hydrology, and you see in left part their code repository that they sent to us, that without any description, readme, and last but not the least, in Portuguese. So we cannot speak Portuguese, and it's hard to popularize in international community some research that on widely known language. And it's, of course, very routine work to translate on all your repository. Even with, if you have access to language model, you should translate it page by page. It's just annoying. But our tool in one click can translate it to specified language, and it's not always English. It can be translation to Russian, to Chinese, according to the expected audience. Generate the description, generate the code strings, and the authors of repository was quite impressed. They said it's what they need, and of course they can do that manually, but it like spends several hours to this work. And here you can spend just one click and like 10 seconds. So if you're interested in this tool, really you can try it fully open and placed on GitHub. If any problems, please write us. We will fix the problems or help to run it on your code. So to summarize, today I tried to present how we trying to solve the scientific problems in an end-to-end way, from some private our initial tryings in chemical applications to helping to design manual pipelines to solve the task efficiently, to the more high-level stages, how to automate the design of such pipelines, and also of that is very important, how to present the results of such LLM-based generation of pipelines to the scientific community. Here, open source, I think, is a great tool, and I hope that our tools, our methods will have many practitioners from different fields to make their research simple, in more simple way and in more effective way. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Okay, Professor. Here's some questions from our colleagues. The first is about the first part of the chemistry models. That the generation model is a special model that's trained just special for this chemistry scenarios, or it's just some kind of fine-tuned generation models from other, such as language models?
It depends. It depends from the formulation of initial task. Of course, it's ideal case when we can use some common generative model or some existing models that fine-tune for chemical applications, but that are very common, to avoid any special training and fine-tuning of new models. But of course, for some application, we should train our specific models, like for the case on the screen, we should build the predictive model that predicts the properties of co-crystal, because there are no any existing models that can be used. So we try to maximize the generalization of the instruments that are used in the multi-agent systems, but of course, when we narrow the field, the again, should guess, can we use existing tools, or we should, for example, start training on the model if the data are available. Of course, if we move the system outside the chemical field, the tools should be replaced, but multi-agent system will remain the same.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And another question is about this AutoML pipelines design. And for this design, here is a training boot that is based on large language models that could provide some pipeline agents for special scenarios. And for this language model, is I think here it can be used from the OpenAI or some other not open source models. So in this way, this is not a special model that can, but any kind of general language model can take charge of this task to provide this pipeline, right?
The general model will provide very common pipeline. So of course, the state-of-the-art model are very effective in solving of various tasks. But when we go into specifics, it will be like pipeline that we used in the start. Take some generative models that pre-training for chemistry will generate a lot of molecules, but the metrics about novelty, validity, etc., will be quite low because there are a lot of specifics here. And it's great if when domain specialist can formulate the tasks correctly. But if there are like several subtasks merged in one common request, it's very hard for the model to both decompose, solve, validate it. For this case, we have specialized tools. In our benchmarks, we do not imitate the situation when like very advanced scientists with knowledge of chemistry, with knowledge of machine learning, etc., build an ideal request. We imitate real researchers that often have mistakes, miss something, maybe use some machine learning formulations, terms not very correctly. And for such tasks, it's very important to find the correct way between initial request and some real requests that should be used, and then to the tools that should be used to solve it. So it's like for AutoML, the humans can build very good machine learning pipelines, but it's spends a lot of time and qualification. And here we can avoid the unnecessary qualification of machine learning to solve such a task. There is the idea.
Okay, so in this way, these spectral generations of these language models, currently there are two different kind of ways to help a general model to provide some special outputs. One way is to using the supervised fine-tuning to generate a new model, and one way is to provide a lot of reference to use RAG, the retrieval automated generations. Which one do you think is more more proper for these scenarios that in the chemistry designs?
From our experience, we try to use some fine-tuned model, HMLLM and others. The fine-tuning make them very narrow. Even if there are a lot of data to fine-tune, it's still too focused. And when we have one step from initial formulations, it's start to hallucinate or provide some non-interesting results. Oh, for example, my PhD student Ivan Guryev, that is here, he tried to evaluate HMLLM, and from chemical point of view, it's not so effective as expected. I don't know, maybe you can provide some interesting example.
Okay, so from our colleagues, I think just so in Professor, in your scenarios, that's usually it's more more common to use the fine-tuning models to do this works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really more common, and for
Yeah.
common tasks it works great. But what we evaluated the effectiveness for more narrow field of drug design, and really existing fine-tuning models are almost useless, honestly. Of course, we can have tomorrow the next generation of AI models that can be fine-tuned more efficiently, maybe. But all existing experience in different fields, not only chemical, we also use such tasks for urbanistics and tasks of code analysis that what was noted. It's very hard to use even best models in such a direct way, even in fine-tuned mode. If our task not very specific or not require just shallow involvement in the field. But of course, we shouldn't miss the existing of such model, but there is mostly tools for our multi-agent setup. And of course, the question of cost. When you have a very big, very good model, it's very expensive to use it even for the inference. And here we try to also minimize the cost, because simple model with good prompt can be great decomposer, but GPT-4 will be like very expensive tool and useless from practical point of view.
Okay, and some other questions here is about there's a slide about the query generations. I'm not sure which pages of it. It seems there is a pipeline that some expert in has generated some queries, and some models has expanded the queries. Professor, could you help?
Of course, there is impossible now to avoid the involvement of experts in the start of the pipeline to generate some hypotheses, and also in the end of pipeline to make something with all this computer-based assumption. We can all we try to do to reduce the routine work from for the expert and minimize the search space for hypotheses for real-world experiments, if I understand the question correctly.
Okay, so actually, the real question is about the experts here. What kind of task the expert is worked for? That's what kind of the optimization and the fine tuning of these models. This expert are just helping to generate some supervised fine tuning data set, or it's just involved into some kind of reinforcement learning during the whole optimization process. Which way this expert works in this pipeline? Yeah, something like this. Yes.
Yeah, really, it's a really important problem here that there is a lack of good benchmarks and also good specialized data sets from some from the field of AI for science. And it's really common that we can build different models, pipeline, etc., but hard to validate it. And the same problem for few short learning or fine tuning. So it will be very great to make some collaboration is preparing of data sets and benchmarks for some specific tasks that's still not well solved. It can be very effective, even more effective that develop new LLMs, etc.
Okay, so here the expert just is also finishing the task of the generate of the data set. It's not help with the data set or verify the output of the models to give the scores and do the reinforcement learning, right?
Yeah, it's also quite possible and effective. For me, the look of perspective of all of it is that in science, such multi-agent systems will choose between existing deterministic tools, between different large language models, fine-tuned, not fine-tuned, etc., to maximize the scientific output and minimize the cost, because for our team, cost is often a deal breaker, just because some interesting experiments will be cost like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for just LLM runs, and of course it's quite painful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Professor. Here's all the questions that I can see, and other colleagues on the meeting, if you have some questions, you can open your microphones here. Okay, so if no one has no more questions, I think this could be all of today's meetings. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Nikitin. Yeah.
And I'll share the presentation and all links to open source. Please be free to contact for any point. We are fully open to any collaboration. Had a lot of results of great success of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, of course. And this record will be uploaded later in our website and some video websites. So maybe someone will connect.
Thank you.
Thank you, professors. Thank you, everyone.